Hi, and welcome to Chief for Yourself. I'm happy you're with us today, wherever you happen to be in the world at this moment. If you have a pet or pets in your living space, you know what a special relationship you have. And probably at least once you've wondered, what is my pet trying to tell me? Our guest today is a nationally syndicated radio host, author, Reiki practitioner, and animal communicator. Tim Link has written a book called Talking with Dogs and Cats, Joining the Conversation to Improve Behavior and Bond with Your Animals. The book helps decipher a pet's bark or meow or that long stare. I get that one a lot. And it will open up a two-way communication that will make a more enjoyable experience for both animal and human. Tim, let's start at the obvious starting point. Just exactly what is an animal communicator?
Well, an animal communicator is someone that has not only a deep connection with animals, but is able to process the information they're sharing with them in whatever manner they're sharing with them. So it's really, some people label it as a whisperer, sort of a Dr. Doolittle, if you imagine that. But I'm able to work as a conduit between you, the human companion, and your animals, to share information with them both verbally, visually, and at a positive energy level, so they better understand what we're trying to, the message trying to come across from you. In return, work as a conduit backwards. So connecting with the animal, getting information from them to share with you, so you can better understand, why they're looking at you those certain ways or what they're really wanting from you.
Now, you didn't start out life as an animal communicator. I believe you were in the telecom industry, and then you kind of switched over there. It's quite a change. Talk about that time in your life and what made you make the switch.
Yeah, my high school counselor didn't offer that option. That would have been a really good one if I could check that one off the box. But no, my background basically, is I worked hard, came from a family with very modest means. First one of my family to go to college. I paid my way through college, and I started a 20-year career as a telecom executive. So I worked with some of the biggest names in the telecom industry, and I was an executive selling advanced cellular phone technologies. So I would, all those wonderful things we find in our smartphones today, such as live streaming and video downloads, television, texting applications, all those wonderful applications and things that we've grown accustomed to, I was selling those to companies like Texas Instruments and Microsoft and Intel and some of the big corporations, trying them to convince them to spend millions of dollars on technology that wouldn't be come around to see the light of day for many, many years to come. But in 2004, that was all going to change. I went to a little workshop, and the workshop was designed to sort of open your mind to the possibility of connecting with the animals, opening your heart and allowing that connection to come through, clearing what I call the Post-it notes on the brain, getting rid of all those things that block us from really receiving information around us, and connecting with those animals. And so I went to the workshop. It was basically my wife Kim's birthday weekend, and she wanted to go. And, being the good husband, I got the birthday card, check. I got the flowers, check. I got the animal communication workshop, check. I'm good for another year. So and that was really the only expectations I had from it, being around a lot of like-minded people, being around animals, which my wife and I love, and just seeing what we could explore, see what we could find. But during that workshop, we had questions. Everybody had questions that they only knew the answers to. They're the only ones that knew the answers. And we would connect with animals both in forms of pictures as well as animals that were live there at the host house, and ask them those questions, ask the animals those questions, calm ourselves down, breathe, connect with them, and see what we get. And each and every time that I connected with an animal, I received a couple of words and a picture, a vision of what the animal was sharing with me. I had no idea if it was right, wrong, or indifferent. But I wrote down the information I received, and I compared it back to the human companion who knew the answers. And every single time, not only did I receive information, but it was 100% accurate. And so we went through probably about 100 different questions, and every time it was spot on. Wow. And, so I thought, wow, this is cool. This is really strange. Maybe I'm on a roll. Maybe I should get the lotto ticket immediately or head to Vegas, one of those two, because I'm really cooking today. And I really didn't know what this meant to me. how this was going to fit into my life, because it wasn't like I could go to the head of a major, Fortune 500 company and say, well, listen, sir, spend like $30 million on this technology that I'm trying to sell you, and I'll come by and tell you why Fluffy's not using the litter box. I knew those two worlds weren't quite in alignment yet, and I knew that I really didn't know what I was working with here. Mm-hmm. But I did continue to work with it and grow, and now, years later, I do this full time. This is what I've been doing over the past decade, is helping people with their animals.
Well, your energy channels are obviously open, and I'm wondering, even before you found out you had this ability, were you the kind of person who paid attention to those things, the more, shall we say, heart-centered, soul-leveled type of listening and going to that place inside?
No, I tell you, I truthfully wasn't. And it wasn't that I discarded it. I was fully open to the ideas. I always keep myself open to everything, because that's what life's about. It's a learning experience, and you go through these learning experiences to expand yourself to be the best person you possibly can. So I was open to it, but I never really did deep breathing exercises. I mean, I got a minor in vocal performance in college, so I knew about breathing. But I never thought about breathing to clear your mind and open your heart and center your chakras and clear out negative energy. Never occurred to me. Never really thought too much about the connecting and verbalizing and receiving visions and information back. I was basically just a guy who had a great life around a lot of great people and a wonderful family, and had animals around me, and climbing that corporate ladder. But I think, Johnny, it was one of those things that it was the time. Mm-hmm. We have different times in our lives where we go through these shifts, these aha moments, these things that the universe puts in front of us. And if we recognize them and follow them, then amazing stuff will happen. Mm-hmm. And if not, then we'll continue down the same path we're on, and perhaps not open ourselves up to all the wonderful things in the world, and to find our true purpose, which I do believe is my purpose in life.
Yeah. Now, can you talk to any creature? Is there any place along the chain where you just can't pick anything up from the smallest creature?
I've been blessed that every animal I've communicated with has communicated back with me, and it's all kinds of animals. The book Talking with Dogs and Cats focuses on our domestic animals, so it's mostly dogs and cats. Mm-hmm. Even though we see that expanding nowadays, our domestic life, especially with our children, they're interested in things like bearded dragons and snakes and spiders and things of this sort as part of the domestic life. So I work with those animals as well. I also work with a lot of farms and farm animals and ranches. I work with zoos, wildlife sanctuaries, and aquariums. So I've worked with numerous animals, everything from dogs to cats to zebras to porcupines to spiders and snakes, and you name it. It's ever expanding, and they all communicate on the same level. They all have energy, and so I'm connecting with that to see what they have to say.
We have, of course, a huge curiosity about what our animals are thinking. Are they at all curious as to what we're about?
Yeah. I think they probably spend more time trying to figure us out than we figure them out. But they are curious. They want to know what we're doing and why we're doing the things that we do. So that's why we see a lot of behavior changes within our animals. Whenever we change the routine, or we're discussing something like going on vacation, they think it's now, and they get anxious about it. And they want to know, okay, what's this vacation thing? Where are you going? Am I going? Do I get my doggy bones together and ready to pack up and go? So they wonder about what's going on. And especially when we're talking about energy as well, our internal energy. When we have distress in our lives or dis-ease within our lives, whether it's a physical dis-ease or whether it's an emotional thing we're going through, they want to know about that. They're trying to figure that out, and more importantly, they're trying to figure out how they can help in that situation. So they're very curious about us as well.
Now, I'd be remiss if I didn't mention some of these reminders that I got from friends and relatives to, when Tim is on, ask him this, and so I just jotted a few of what I think are probably the most obvious. I know you've answered these before, but what might our dogs or cats be saying to us when they, first of all, bark loud and long?
Yeah, and the bark is a notification. So we know that it's to wake us up to something. Now, it can be as simple as, hey, do you see the squirrel outside? So, you know, when we see the dog go to the window and they're barking their full heads off, and we say, okay, that's enough, Spot, you know, come here, lay down, we get upset about it, that's the wrong approach to take. Spot's just trying to let you know that, hey, this is my job. It's probably my job I've assigned myself, so I'm going to let you know what's going on. And as soon as you come over here to the window and recognize that it's that silly squirrel again and make ease of it and not get upset about it, then as soon as you do that, I'll leave. I'll let you know, you know, and we'll go and do something else. But you have to recognize this job that I have. You have to recognize what I'm telling you. And other times it's just for pure pleasure. You know, we can get our dogs to sing and singing along with them, or get our cats to chime in and listen to what they have to say. So it is a unique response that they have. They're vocalizing, and it's basically saying, hey, come over here. I got something to show you. I got something to tell you.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. How about chewing the furniture?
Well, chewing the furniture, there could be a lot of things going on. You know, sometimes it is something going on with them physically. There could actually be something that's lacking in their diet. And that's the reason they chew on the furniture. Mm-hmm. Other times it could be a de-stressor. So if you're not verbally communicating with them and bringing positive energy to the table and into the household, they are going to eliminate that stress in some fashion or another. So they could be chewing the furniture. So this is just like us chewing our nails or twirling our hair. Yeah. It's sort of a nervous energy that we don't realize we're doing it, or we're trying to de-stress ourselves. So there's a lot of reasons those things could be happening. But I think the key thing behind it is if we're clearly communicating with our animals, we're talking to them verbally, just like you and I are discussing matters here on the radio show today. And we're sending out strong visualizations of what it is we're talking about and what we need from them. And we follow that up with positive energy, feeling good about what we just said, feeling good about what we just presented visually. The better they're going to understand us and the better life we're going to have with them.
And last but not least, missing the litter box.
Yes, the brilliant litter box. The number one thing I get called on the most. And, you know, I think cats are the most brilliant creatures around. Because how many other animals do you know out there that you can put down a plastic bin, fill it with some, you know, clay or sand, and you say, there it is. They know exactly what to do with it. Yeah. But on the other hand, you know, it's one of those things where often we probably don't pay as much attention to our cats as, say, our dogs. And they're also very independent creatures often. So we don't really recognize them and have conversations with them as much as we should. So when an animal is confused, when they have distress in their life, when they have dis-ease within their life, whether it's physical, mental, or emotional, the one surefire way to get our attention is to stop using that litter box. And so they sort of force us. We're not communicating those things ahead of time. They're going to say, okay, I'm going to get your attention one way or another, and guess how I'm going to do it.
In the book, you say some animals are more talkative, others more quiet, and it's not based on breed, but I'm curious about behavior. A friend of mine has a dog that greets people by jumping up on them, and the dog continues to do this as long as you're near him. Now, I'm told the reason for the behavior is because of his breed. That's what these dogs do. Is that ever true, or is it just a lack of good training?
Well, I think it's a matter of, you know, each breed has their own unique characteristics, so they can be identified that way. I have schnauzers, which are terriers, and terriers are sort of known barkers. But on the flip side, my father-in-law had a terrier for years, and he rarely barked. So I think what it really comes down to is each animal, no matter what the breed or the type of animal it is, they have their own unique personality. And so how they greet you and how they communicate with you is going to be different from one animal to another. If you have a dog that's constantly jumping on you and loves to give hugs and attention, well, it's just like a human that will come up to you and would rather give you a big old hug than to shake your hand or just to say hello. So they will have that. They'll be very flamboyant in their conversations. They'll share a lot of information with you. And others are more subdued. Their approach on how they approach you, how they communicate with you may only be a few words or a few pictures that you're receiving. That's okay. That's how they like to communicate. And with the training aspects, training is very, very important. So if you prefer your animal not to jump on people when they come to the door, there are wonderful training techniques that you can implement to help curtail that a little bit. But more importantly, if you have a conversation with them ahead of time to let them know what the situation is, what they need to do, and why is this going to be a good thing for them, then if you have that conversation ahead of time, you're going to curtail those things from the very beginning. They're going to understand, and there's going to be a less likelihood of them doing things that you prefer them not to do.
I personally am around a dog who's really good with loud noises. He's not bothered by the vacuum cleaner or the food processor, but he has a problem with the kitchen blender of all things. He wails. I mean, he wails like crazy when the blender goes on. Is there a way to reassure him the blender's no danger, or should I just get another blender?
Yeah, well, one thing I would do is present the blender to them. So just like the vacuum cleaner, we hear that a lot of animals are afraid of the vacuum cleaner. And why is that? Well, yes, it produces a high-pitched noise, which can be annoying to them. But more importantly, it's stuck in a closet until we need it. So it makes an appearance, at the time when we need it, and they don't get to see it. They don't get comfortable around it. So if you leave your vacuum cleaner out in the open and introduce it to them that this is just this old vacuum cleaner, they get comfortable with it. So it's the same thing with the blender. I would unplug it and sit it down the ground and show it to them. Present it, show them, let him smell it, let him lick it. If you've had a nice strawberry margarita ahead of time, then let him sniff the strawberry margarita, not the alcohol, but just the scent of it. So he gets comfortable with it. And then you can do blending a little bit at a time and work your way up to a full blend cycle, do a little bit, and reassure him that, see, just that old blender. Yep, it makes some noise. Thanks for helping me out. Hey, thanks for blending my margarita for me. And you make light of it and don't get worried about it. Because if you're stressed about it, he's going to get stressed about it as well.
Yeah. So they can pick up when you're kind of hesitating to do that, and it just feeds on it, right? I mean, they know you're not comfortable, and then they get uncomfortable, and they're picking up your energy, basically.
Absolutely. There is a chapter I wrote in there that's called Using Animals as Your Barometer. And they're great at picking up energy within themselves, energy in you, energy in the household. And if there's a fluctuation or a change in that energy, they will be able to detect that. So I always tell people that if your animal has changed their behavior, if they're acting a little differently than they normally do, it's a great time for you to step back, take a breath, look within yourself to see how you're doing, both physically and emotionally, and look around your household to see what's going on. And you'll find out the majority of the time that your energy is slightly off, or you had a bad day, or you're upset about something, and you had no idea perhaps that you even outwardly projected that. It was just something internally you were worried about. And they're going to pick up on that. So how we act, if we're in a very positive energy state, positive state of mind, and we're feeling good, then there's a good chance your animals are going to be in that same space with you.
And speaking of animals being great barometers, I've seen, and I don't think it's a coincidence, I've seen very unusual animal behavior, say, a day or two before large earthquakes, which we have from time to time here. And I think, gee, we were told that by a squirrel or a rabbit or something like that, that just behaves very, very strangely. I don't think it's a coincidence. Have you seen a lot of that?
Yeah, absolutely. First and foremost, there's no such thing as coincidence. That's my firm belief. Everything happens for a reason. And our animals are those great energy barometers. So they can feel that. They can feel the energy shift, the barometric pressure changes. That's why they can detect storms before we even hear them or them even happening. The static electricity, the change in that happens. So all these things they're detecting. So you can tell whenever there's a major storm or a major happening that's going to happen, your animal will act a little bit more stressed, or they will act a little bit different. And that's a good opportunity to recognize that and sort of prepare yourself for that, or at least cleanse the energy out and make it a positive thing the best you can.
You write that it's important that we open our own telepathic connection. How do you broach this point with humans who maybe never considered something like this before?
Yeah, I was in the book Talking with Dogs and Cats. It's a two-part book. The latter part of the book deals with everyday behavior challenges we have with our animals. We got animals in your life. You're going to deal with the litter box issues, the doorbell ringing, introducing guests at the home, and the book covers a lot of those tips and advice on that. But the first part of the book is really designed to let everybody know that telepathy is a normal thing. It's something. It doesn't have to be scary. We all have that telepathic connection. It's sort of that thing when we, if we start talking about Sanskrit, the chakras and the center of our being is that, yellow solar plex chakra that vibrates in the color of yellow. Well, people that aren't familiar with that terminology or comfortable with that terminology may be offset with what you said. You know, they may be like, whoa, that's a little heavy there, Tim. So if you simply tell them that you've got a gut feeling, well, everybody has gut feelings. We're taught to follow our gut feelings. So it's the same thing. They're equally the same. So when we're born, when we're a child, we have that telepathic connection with everything around us. That's not why, you know, it's not uncommon for children to have conversations with animals and receive information back, or have what we call as adults these imaginary friends, which they're actually connected with energy around them. And even with mothers have that mother's instinct, and that's part of that telepathic connection that she has with her child. So these are all common things we know about, and these are common things that we have when we were children. The challenge comes in the fact that when we're getting to be about 5, 6, 7 years old, we're taught, you know, we go to school and we used to learn our vocabulary and to speak out in our outward voice, and we're to act a certain way. And we tend to get away from trusting that telepathic connection we have with everything around us. So what we have to do is to go back to the beginning. We have to breathe. We have to get rid of the clutter that's in our mind. We have to open our hearts up. And we have to trust the information we're receiving. We've got to get in our quiet space and connect with animals and everything around us. And once we do, I think you'll be amazed at how much information you're going to receive from everything, especially your animals.
Yeah. Yeah. Now, you're also a Reiki master, Reiki being the ancient art of energy healing. Talk about Reiki and how it's beneficial to animals.
Well, Reiki will definitely, it's a hands-off modality. So I'm a Reiki master, as you mentioned, so I can do energy work from around the world. So I have clients around the world that have animals that have some behavior challenges, some dis-ease within their life, or some physical challenges going on. And so the Reiki energy will work to open up those chakras, those 7 chakras as we envision it, that's within our bodies, with our animal's body. So it opens up those, so our energy is flowing well, the animal's energy is flowing well. It aligns everything, so everything is in a perfect alignment. And really it's designed to put the animal sort of in a comfort zone and at ease and getting things back to the norm. And Reiki goes a long way with doing that. So it's a wonderful way to assist your animals, help them out when they're in challenge, especially when they're in physical challenges, and get them in alignment. So it can really be a complementary modality to what you're already doing, what your veterinarian's doing, or whatever you're doing to help your animal out.
Ever been around an animal that flat out doesn't want to communicate with you?
I've never had one that hasn't wanted to communicate with me. I tell a story about a cat one time that I wanted to have a conversation with, that their human companion wanted me to ask some questions. And I asked the cat, you know, is it okay if we talk now? Can we have a conversation? And the cat goes, not now. And I said, well, I'd really like to talk to you. And he goes, not now. And then it goes, well, can I just ask one question? He goes, not now. Well, let your imagination roam. But he was a indoor-outdoor cat that hadn't been fixed. We'll just put it that way. So, yeah, he was a little bit busy with the ladies out there. And I hope it's not a PG show. And I don't want to put anything out there. But
just like a cat.
Exactly. So like any good conversation, you ask, is this a good time to have a chat? That's how we do it in our life with humans. Let's do that with our animals. Then you can open up and have some great conversations.
One last question for you. And what I'm going to do is ask you for a takeaway thought as the best way to start a better relationship with our pets right now.
Yeah, the best thing you can do is communicate with them. And I can't say that any more simpler than that. You're having a conversation with them just like you would anybody else in your life. You're very clear in what you're telling them verbally. You send out very strong visualizations, because every time we say a word or a series of words, we're sending out a mental picture. So the more cognizant we are about that mental picture, the better they understand. And then most importantly is feel good about it. Trust what you're sending out. Trust what you receive back from your animals. Get in that positive state, that positive energy. Because animals always respond to positive energy and positive things that we're doing for them. So allow yourself to do this. Have some great conversations with them. Show them that mental picture. Feel good about it. Trust what you're receiving from them. And I think you'll be amazed at how great your life already is, how much better it's going to get, and how many you'll be able to connect with your animals at a deeper level.
Now you have, I think, 2 websites, don't you? TalkingWithDogsAndCats.com and
wagging-tails.com. So you can go to TalkingWithDogsAndCats.com. You can find out more about the book, Talking with Dogs and Cats, which are available nationwide on every online bookstore in brick-and-mortar stores and your favorite independent bookstores. While you're there, you can look at all the events, workshops, and appearances that I'll be making for the book. There's also an icon on there leading you to my main site, which is wagging-tails.com. That's WAGGING-TALES.com. It's the tails they tell, not the tails they wag. and on there, you can find out more information about me, read the articles, look at the video clips, and you can sign up for your own consultation as well to find out, what's my animal really thinking.
The book is Talking with Dogs and Cats, joining the conversation to improve behavior and bond with your animals, from our guest, Tim Link. Tim, thanks for being with us, sharing your time with us today, and for writing a book that's a lot of fun to read, for sure, but also loaded with ways to make those great relationships with our animals even better. Thanks again, and come back and talk to us again sometime.
Absolutely. My pleasure. Thanks for having me on.